Commander Veltar's claws clicked nervously against the metal floor as he walked through the bright hallways of Nexus Prime. The massive space station was home to the Galactic Council, where alien species from across the galaxy came to talk about important matters. Today, Veltar carried news that would make everyone afraid. The council chamber was huge, with seats arranged in circles that went up to the ceiling. Representatives from 47 different alien species sat waiting. There were the tall, thin Zephyrians with their blue skin and large eyes. The rock-like granite people sat in their heavy chairs. The floating jellyfish creatures called drift mines hovered above their special platforms. All of them were talking quietly, wondering why this emergency meeting had been called. Veltar stepped onto the speaking platform in the center of the room. His reptilian face was pale with worry. Had been a military commander for over 50 years, but he had never felt fear like this before. "My fellow council members," he began, his voice shaking slightly. "I bring news from our long-range scouts. After 300 years of complete silence, there is movement in the Sol system." The room went completely quiet. Could have heard. "A pin drop," humans, Veltar continued, "are active again." The silence exploded into chaos. Aliens jumped up from their seats, making all kinds of sounds. Zephyrians whistled in high, sharp notes. The granite people made deep, rumbling sounds like earthquakes. The drift mines flashed bright colors of panic. "Order. Order," shouted Council Speaker Nethera, banging her gavel. But it took several minutes for everyone to calm down. An old Zephyrian named Elder Keshlan stood up slowly. His voice was quiet, but everyone listened. "Are you absolutely certain? The Sol system has been quiet for 3 centuries. Perhaps your scouts made an error." Veltar activated a holographic display above the center of the room. It showed star charts and energy readings. Our most advanced sensors detected unusual activity, power signatures, movement. Something is happening on the 3rd planet. The room filled with whispers of fear. Many of the younger aliens looked confused. They had only heard stories about humans, but the older ones remembered, and their faces showed terror. "We must access the ancient archives," declared Nethera. "Bring up all records about the humans from the Great Silence." Massive screens around. The room flickered to life. Old files appeared, many of them damaged or incomplete. The records painted a picture that made everyone's blood run cold. "Humans came from a world called Earth," the files said. "It was a death world, a planet so dangerous that most alien species would die within hours of landing there. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was poison to many races. Deadly storms covered the planet. The star that warmed their world sent out radiation that would kill most aliens. But humans didn't just survive on this terrible world. They thrived." "Listen to this," said the archive keeper, a machine-like being with dozens of eyes. Military. Report 7429. Human soldiers continued fighting for 6 days. After suffering wounds that would kill any other known species, when their weapons broke, they used pieces of metal. When the metal broke, they used rocks. When the rocks broke, they used their bare hands. Another file appeared. Cultural Analysis 2156. Humans have been fighting wars on their planet for thousands of years. Not just small fights, but massive conflicts that lasted for decades. They have weapons that can destroy entire cities, yet somehow they never completely destroyed themselves. The most frightening file was the last one. Final report on human. Contact. Year 2387. After 17 years of intermittent contact, the humans have simply stopped responding to all communications. Their ships have returned to their home system. All human colonies have been abandoned. It is as if they have decided to ignore the galaxy entirely. Recommendation: never attempt to contact them again. Never enter their system. Never wake the humans. That was 300 years ago. Since then, no one had heard from Earth. No human ships had been seen. No signals had been detected. The galaxy had been happy to forget about the scary humans from the Death World until now. "What do you think they have been doing all this time?" asked a young counselor. Elder Keshlan's voice was grave. "Building, preparing, getting stronger." If they were dangerous 300 years ago, imagine what they are now. Veltar nodded grimly. Our scouts detected energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before. Either they're testing new weapons, or they're preparing to use them. The council sat in stunned silence. Finally, Nithari spoke. We must prepare. Alert all member species. Begin emergency protocols, and may the stars help us all. Far away, on the third planet of the Sol system, Dr. Kim Dae sat in his small weather station high in the mountains of Korea. He sipped his morning coffee and checked his instruments. The atmospheric readings were a little unusual today, but nothing to worry about. It's probably just solar activity. He had no idea that his simple weather monitoring equipment was being watched by frightened aliens across the galaxy, who thought he was preparing for war. The galaxy held its breath in fear, while Earth continued its quiet morning routine, completely unaware that the stars themselves were trembling at the mention of humanity's name. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On every world and every space station, aliens whispered the same terrifying words. The humans are awake. Admiral Korthvin had fought in more battles than he could count. His blue skin was covered in scars from 17 different wars. Other military commanders respected him. His enemies feared him. But now, as he stood in his command center reading the emergency orders, his hands were shaking. Sir, asked his aide, a young officer named Trelano. What are your orders? Korthvan looked at the message again. The Galactic Council wanted him to do something impossible. They wanted him to build the largest military force in galactic history. They wanted ships from every species, every world, every military organization, all to stop one small planet on the edge of the galaxy. Send messages to all fleet commanders, Korthvan said quietly. Emergency mobilization. Every available ship. Tell them it's the humans. He didn't. Need to say more? Every military officer in the galaxy knew that name. Within hours, space lanes that had carried peaceful trade ships for centuries became highways of war. The elegant passenger liners of the Velthari were replaced by their battle cruisers. Crystal ships of the luminous ones, usually used for scientific research, now bristled with weapons. Even the peaceful garden worlds sent their defense fleets. On the industrial world of Keth Prime, factories that made farming equipment were converted. Overnight, to produce weapons and armor, the insect-like workers buzzed with nervous energy as they welded gun barrels and assembled shield generators. The Trilak hive worlds, home to billions of insect aliens, made a decision that shocked everyone. They sealed their planets completely. No ships in, no ships out. The hive queens, who had ruled for thousands of years, sent a simple message to the galaxy. We will not face the humans. We choose to hide. The floating cities of the gas giants began moving deeper into their storms. The crystalline beings who lived in asteroid fields started breaking apart their homes and scattering the pieces. Entire civilizations began running away. From a threat that was still thousands of light years distant, trade routes that had operated for millennia shut down overnight. The great merchant families who had grown rich carrying goods between the stars found their ships empty. No one wanted to travel while the humans might be watching, but the military buildup continued. Ships gathered at rally points across the galaxy. The sight was incredible and terrifying. Vessels from dozens of different species, each one built using completely different technology, all floating together in space. There were the sword-shaped destroyers of the warrior clans, painted in bright red and gold. The sphere ships of the Dug, Mine Collective, perfectly smooth and silver. The living ships of the bioengineers, which looked more like giant space whales than machines. Crystal ships that sparkled like diamonds. Metal ships the size of cities. Ships made of pure energy that glowed like small stars. Admiral Korthvin moved his command to the largest ship ever built, a massive vessel called the Unity's Fist. It was so big that smaller ships could dock inside it. From its bridge, he could see the fleet assembling around him. How many ships do we have now? He asked his aide. Trelano checked his computer. 47,000, sir. Still more arriving every hour. 47,000 ships. It was more. firepower than had ever been gathered in one place. They could destroy entire star systems with this fleet, but Korthvan wondered if it would be enough. He called up the old files about humans again. The records were incomplete, but what they showed was frightening. Humans didn't fight like other species. When most aliens were losing a battle, they would retreat, negotiate, or surrender. Humans just kept fighting. There was a story about a human ship that had been badly damaged in battle. The engines were destroyed. The weapons were broken. Most of the crew was dead. Any other species would have surrendered. Instead, the humans had rammed their ship into an enemy vessel 3 times larger than theirs, destroying both ships another. Report told of a human colony that was attacked by pirates. The humans had no military ships, no weapons, nothing but farming equipment. They had turned their farming tools into weapons, used their tractors as tanks, and fought so fiercely that the pirates eventually gave up and left. They don't know when to quit, Korthvan muttered to himself. Meanwhile on Earth, Dr. Li Min was having problems with her equipment. The marine biologist was trying to map the ocean floor using sonar, but her instruments kept picking up strange vibrations. It was as if massive objects were moving in perfect formation. Somewhere far above the Earth's atmosphere, she ran diagnostic tests on her equipment 3 times. But everything seemed to be working properly. The readings made no sense. Nothing. That big should be able to move in such perfect coordination. Must be some kind of interference, she said to her assistant. Maybe solar activity affecting the satellites? She had no idea that the vibrations were coming from 47,000 alien warships taking positions at the edge of her solar system. Their crews paralyzed with fear at the thought of facing humanity. The largest military force in galactic history was assembling to fight one small peaceful planet, while the humans went about their daily lives completely unaware that the galaxy was preparing for war. Admiral Korthvan stared at the massive fleet surrounding his command ship. 47,000 vessels from across the galaxy, all waiting for his orders. But he was terrified to give any command at all. We need to know what we're facing, he told his officers during the morning briefing. Send a probe, just one. Let it record what it finds and return. Captain Zethmar, his chief of staff, looked worried. Sir, what if the humans capture it? What if they trace it back to us? Then we'll know we're already dead, Korthvan replied grimly. The probe was their most advanced scout ship, but without any crew. It was small, fast, and packed with sensors. The engineers had added extra shields and armor, knowing it would have to survive the journey to humanity's death world. Launch when ready, Korthvan ordered. The probe shot away from the fleet like a silver arrow, heading toward the inner solar system. As it got closer to Earth, its sensors began picking up incredible readings. The third planet was surrounded by a strong magnetic field that could fry most electronic equipment. Radiation from the star was much stronger than the probe's builders had expected. The atmosphere was thick and violent, full of electrical storms. How do they live on that thing? Whispered one of the technicians monitoring the probe's data. The probe's shields began failing as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Systems that were designed to survive space battles started shutting down one by one. Alarms blared inside the small craft as it fell toward the surface. Smoking and sparking, it crashed in a rice field outside Seoul, South Korea, leaving a long black scar in the mud where it had skidded to a stop. Park Jun was checking his rice plants after the morning rain when he saw the strange object. It was about the size of a small car, made of some kind of metal he had never seen before. Smoke was rising from several holes in its surface. What in the world? He muttered, walking closer. The thing didn't look like any airplane or helicopter. He knew it was too smooth, too strange. Maybe it was some kind of experimental aircraft that had crashed. He pulled out his phone and called the local police. Hello, yes, I think a plane crashed in my field. No, I don't see any people, just this strange metal thing. Within 2 hours, a small convoy of vehicles arrived at Park Chen's farm. Scientists from Seoul National University had driven out to investigate. Leading them was Dr. Choi Hannah, a woman who studied rocks and minerals from space. Dr. Choi took one look at the crashed object and knew immediately what it was. The metal was wrong. The design was wrong. Everything about it screamed, "Not from Earth." "Everyone step back," she said calmly. "This is not human technology." Her team began setting up equipment around the crash site. Dr. Kim Day arrived with atmospheric sensors. Dr. Li Min brought underwater communication gear, thinking it might work on alien technology too. More scientists came with cameras, computers, and translation software. The probe's damaged sensors were still working, recording everything. What they saw confused the alien engineers monitoring from space. The humans weren't treating the crash site like a military target. Instead, they were being incredibly careful and gentle. Dr. Choi and her team spent hours trying to figure out how to safely examine the probe without damaging it. When they thought it might be alive, someone brought water and food, placing them near the object. Children from the nearby village came to watch, and their parents let them get surprisingly close to the unknown alien device. "Look at this," Dr. Li Min said, pointing to symbols carved into the probe's hull. "These look like maybe writing or numbers." The team worked together, sharing ideas and theories. Dr. Kim Dae suggested they try to power up the probe systems safely. Dr. Choi worried about contamination or dangerous radiation. But they all agreed on one thing. They needed to try to communicate with whoever had sent this thing. Meanwhile, in space, the alien fleet was receiving the probe's transmissions. The footage was being analyzed by the galaxy's best military minds and alien psychology experts. "This is clearly psychological warfare," declared General Vostok of the War Council. "Look how calm they are. They're not even afraid." "Notice how they're not calling their military," added Dr. Krentel, the fleet's expert on alien behavior. "They want us to see their confidence. They're showing us that they don't consider our probe a threat," the younglings whispered. "Captain Yathera, they're bringing their offspring to look at our technology. Either they're completely fearless, or they have weapons so powerful that they don't worry about anything." Admiral Korthvin watched the recordings again and again. Human children were laughing and pointing at the alien probe. Adults were treating it like a fascinating puzzle rather than a weapon of war. The humans were even offering it food and water, as if they cared about the well-being of their enemies. "Sir," asked Trelawney, "what do we do?" Korthvin didn't answer. He was watching Dr. Choi Hannah carefully clean mud off the probe's surface with a soft brush. As gentle as if she were caring for an injured animal, such supreme confidence could only mean one thing. The humans knew something the galaxy didn't, and that terrified him more than any weapon. Dr. Choi Hannah had not slept in 3 days. She sat in the makeshift laboratory that had been built around the alien probe, surrounded by computers, translation equipment, and empty coffee cups. Her eyes were red from staring at screens, but she refused to give up. "Try the mathematical sequence again," she told Dr. Kim Dae, who was working at another computer. They had been sending simple math problems to the probe, hoping to establish basic communication. 2 + 2 = 4. 3 × 3 = 9. Simple concepts that any intelligent species should understand. Finally, on the 3rd day, something happened. The probe's lights flickered in a pattern. Then symbols appeared on Dr. Li Min's computer screen. "Oh, it's working," Dr. Choi shouted so loud that farmers working in nearby fields could hear her. Over the next few hours, they managed to create a basic way to talk with the probe's computer. The alien machine was learning their language incredibly fast. Soon, it was sending simple messages in broken Korean and English. The first real conversation changed everything. "Why are you here?" Dr. Choi typed on her keyboard. The probe's answer appeared on the screen. "To watch, to learn, to prepare." Prepare for what? For war. The fleet waits. 47 species, many ships, all afraid of humans. Dr. Choi stared. At the screen, she read the message 3 times to make sure she understood. "Afraid of us? Why?" The probe began sending files. Historical records, military reports, stories about humans from 300 years ago. The more Dr. Choi read, the more shocked she became. "Dr. Kim, Dr. Lee, come look at this." The 3 scientists gathered around the screen as more information poured in. The galaxy had spent 3 centuries terrified of humanity. There were stories about human soldiers who never gave up, human weapons that could destroy cities, human colonists who survived on worlds that killed other species. But this is all old, Dr. Kim said, reading through the files. These stories are from hundreds of years ago. Dr. Choi kept typing questions. We are peaceful now. We stopped fighting wars. We focus on healing our planet. The response from the probe was immediate. Information sent to fleet. In space, Admiral Korthvin read the human messages with growing alarm. The aliens' translation computers worked on the information, trying to understand what the humans really meant. Healing our planet obviously means repairing damage from weapons testing, declared the fleet's intelligence officer, and stopped. Fighting wars clearly means they've eliminated all potential enemies, added another analyst. Sir, look at this. Captain Zethmar pointed to new data coming from the probe. The humans say they've been exploring quietly in their solar system. Korthvin felt a chill run down his spine. Quiet exploration means secret military expansion. They've been building bases, preparing weapons, getting ready for 300 years. Back on Earth, Dr. Choi was getting frustrated. Everything she told the probe seemed to make the aliens more afraid instead of less afraid. She tried explaining that Earth had no space weapons, no military fleets, no plans to attack anyone. We study science, she typed. We grow food, make art, we take care of our environment. But when this message reached the alien fleet, the military experts found hidden meanings everywhere. Study science means weapons research, General Voshtik told the War Council. Grow food probably means they're preparing to feed massive armies, suggested another officer. And take care of environment sounds like they're making sure their world can survive a long war, concluded Admiral Korthvin. The more the humans tried to explain their peaceful intentions, the more terrified the galaxy became. Dr. Li Min had been monitoring global communications, watching as news of the alien contacts slowly spread to governments around the world. The response was typically human. Some panic, some excitement, but mostly confusion about which department should handle the situation. Look at this. She showed Dr. Choi a news report. The stock markets crashed when news got out about the alien fleet. In space, the alien sensors detected the economic chaos on Earth. To them, it looked like a planet preparing for war economy. When world leaders began calling emergency meetings, the aliens saw military commanders gathering for battle planning. Sir Trelawney reported to Admiral Korthvin, human cities are maintaining normal operations. Traffic continues to flow. Children still go to schools. Workers still go to their jobs. This was the most terrifying news of all. The humans were so confident in their military power that they weren't even bothering to prepare defenses. Daily life continued as if 47,000 alien warships weren't aimed at their planet. Dr. Choi tried one more desperate message. Please understand. We don't want to fight. We just want peace. The probe sent back. Fleet commanders say humans showing supreme confidence, displaying mercy to enemies proves you have terrible weapons. You are not afraid because you know you can win. Dr. Choi put her head in her hands. Every word they said made things worse. Aliens were so scared of humanity's old reputation that they couldn't believe humans had changed in soul. People were going to work, students were attending classes, and Park Jun was still tending his rice fields. None of them knew that their normal, peaceful lives were being seen as the ultimate display of military confidence by a galaxy full of terrified aliens. The misunderstanding was growing deeper by the hour, and Dr. Choi was running out of time. To prevent a war that nobody wanted, Dr. Choi Hannah knew they were running out of time. The alien probe had warned her that the fleet was getting ready to either attack or surrender. Both options terrified her. We need to try something different, she told her team in the rice field that had become the center of first contact. Everything we say makes them more afraid. Dr. Kim Dae looked up from his computer. What if we show them instead of telling them? Show them what? Everything. The real history. Not the clean version they teach in schools, but what actually happened. Dr. Choi thought about this. It was risky. The real history of humanity wasn't pretty, but maybe that was exactly what the galaxy needed to see. She started typing a message to the probe. We will send you our true history. All of it, the good and the bad. The probe responded. Fleet will analyze. Dr. Choi and her team worked through the night, gathering video files, historical records, and documentary footage. They didn't choose the heroic stories or the peaceful moments. Instead, they chose the brutal truth. They sent footage of World War II, showing cities destroyed by bombs. They sent videos of environmental destruction, forests cut down, rivers poisoned, species driven, extinct. They showed the Korean War, the Vietnam War, conflicts in the Middle East. They showed the worst of humanity. But then they showed what came after. They sent time-lapse videos of Seoul being rebuilt from ruins into a modern city. They showed the DMZ between North and South Korea, where the border had become a nature preserve full of wildlife. They sent footage of reforestation projects, where humans were replanting entire forests they had cut down decades earlier. They showed the cleanup of polluted rivers, the recovery of endangered species, the careful restoration of damaged ecosystems. They sent videos of former enemies working together, of soldiers becoming peacekeepers, of weapons being turned into tools for building instead of destroying. In space, Admiral Korthvin watched the files with growing amazement. His military analysts were silent as the data streamed across their screens. Sir, whispered Captain Zethmar, I think we've been wrong about them. The historical records painted a picture that no one in the galaxy had expected. Yes, humans. We're capable of incredible destruction. The footage proved that. They had built weapons that could destroy entire cities. They had fought wars that lasted for years. They had nearly destroyed their own planet. But they had stopped. Not because they were forced to stop. Not because they ran out of enemies. They had chosen to stop. Look at this. Dr. Krentel, the alien psychology expert, pointed to a video of humans carefully relocating animals before building a new road, protecting creatures that have no military value whatsoever. Another video showed human scientists working to bring back species that had gone extinct. They were using advanced technology not to build weapons, but to undo damage they had caused centuries earlier. They're healing their world, General Voshtik said quietly. Not preparing it for war, actually healing it. The most shocking revelation came from Dr. Choi's final message 300 years ago. We realized we were more dangerous to ourselves than to anyone else. So we chose to step back. We decided to become better than we were. Admiral Korthvin read the message 3 times. Around him, his officers were looking at each other in disbelief. They voluntarily gave up galactic expansion, asked Trelawney. They had the power to conquer other worlds, but they chose to fix their own world instead, added Captain Zethmar. The Admiral looked at the tactical displays showing Earth. No hidden weapons, no secret military bases. No preparations for war. Just a planet full of beings who had learned to live in peace with themselves. Sir, the communications officer called out, we're receiving another message from the planet. Dr. Choi's final transmission was simple. We know what we used to be. We remember the wars, the destruction, the anger, but we chose to be different. The most dangerous thing about humans isn't our ability to destroy. It's our ability to change. For the first time in weeks, Admiral Korthvin smiled. He turned to his communication officer. Open a channel to all ships in the fleet. His message was broadcast to 47,000 vessels. Stand down from battle stations. Prepare for peaceful contact protocols. Then he sent a message directly. To Earth, we would like to meet. 3 days later, a small shuttle landed in Park Chen's rice field not far from where the probe had crashed. Admiral Korthvin stepped out, followed by representatives from a dozen different species, Dr. Choi Hanna. Dr. Kim Dae, Dr. Lee Min, and Farmer Park Jun stood waiting for them. They were Earth's accidental first contact team for ordinary people who had prevented a war through simple honesty. We have much to learn from you, Admiral, Korthvin said as he approached them. Dr. Choi smiled. And we have much to learn from you. But perhaps we can learn together. The galaxy had spent 3 centuries fearing humans for what they might become. Instead, they discovered that the most terrifying thing about humanity was their capacity to become something better than they were. The stars had trembled at humanity's name. But Earth had learned to be still. And in that stillness, the galaxy found not a threat, but hope.